What will Texas A&M's projected record be in 2025? Before we get to that, let's look back at the last 4 seasons. So this is where they were projected and where they finished. So in 2021, they were projected to go 9-3. They went 8-4. In 2022, projected to go 9-3. They went 5-7. In 2023, projected to go 7-5. They did go 7-5. And then last year, projected to go 8-4. They did go 8-4. So the last 2 seasons, our projection has actually been right on the money with Texas A&M. In 2021, missed it by a game, and then in 2022, of course, they had a very disappointing season, finished well below expectations. And again, this is not a prediction. Our predictions won't come until after spring football and all that. This is just a projection based off of our formula, and it's all based off of our tier rankings, and then, of course, the opponents that you play and where those opponents are in the tier rankings. So here's the schedule again. Here's the scale that we use. So Texas A&M is in Tier 2. They're a Tier 2 team, which means if they play a Tier 3 team, or if they, first of all, if they play any other 2 tier teams, those will be 50-50 games. Those will be in the white. If they play a Tier 3 team, that game will be in the purple, 61-70. But if that game is on the road, then it drops down to a 50-50 game. So that's the way this formula works. We'll start with the easier games for the Aggies. I think you've got 4 of those: UTSA, Utah State, Mississippi State, and Samford. They should be able to take care of business in all 4 of those games, and those games will be counted as wins. All of them not the same. Of course, Mississippi State's probably much closer to 80%, whereas Samford is closer to 100%. But they all are in that green range. Then you've got Auburn and Arkansas. A couple of games where I think A&M will be favored, probably by about a touchdown or so. They should be ahead of Auburn in the preseason rankings. I don't know. Auburn probably won't be ranked at all. A&M probably will be. Plus, that game's at home. Now, Arkansas is a couple of tiers below A&M, but this game is on the road, and that's why it bumps it into this purple range. And again, that's going to be very interesting seeing those games played on campus. Excited to see this one this year. But yeah, 6 games where A&M should be favored, pretty clear favorites. And then I think there's a couple of games where they'll be clear underdogs. That's Notre Dame and Texas. I think both of these games are going to be tough. These are all Tier 1 teams, plus you're playing them both on the road. Very tough matchups here for Texas A&M. And these two, those are winnable games. Don't get me wrong. That's why they're in the yellow and not in the red. But those will be tough. Those will be tough wins to get. But they don't need to win those games, really. If they win the rest of the games, if they go 10-2 and they only lose these 2 games, 10-2 gets you in the playoff. And not only that, they would only have 1 conference loss, so they're probably in the SEC championship. So very interesting there if they're able to do that. But 2 tough games, definitely with those 2. Then you've got really a bunch of 50-50 games. You've got Florida, LSU, Missouri, and South Carolina. These are really the games that could go either way. Florida, LSU, and South Carolina are all in the same tier as Texas A&M. These are Tier 2 teams. Missouri, a Tier 3 team, but that game's on the road, and that's why it is a 50-50 game. But yeah, you look at those 4 games, those are going to be the games that really probably decide how this season's going to go. I think if they don't beat Texas or Notre Dame, if they lose both of those games, I think it's going to be very tough for them to win every other game. So I think, first of all, you probably need to pull off an upset against Notre Dame or against Texas, because they're probably going to lose one of these other games. That's just the way it goes. It's going to be very tough to win all 4 of these 50-50 games. And even Arkansas and Auburn, those aren't guaranteed wins. So it's a pretty tough schedule to get the projection. It kind of works out here. Let's just say they lose to Notre Dame and Texas and they split the 50-50 games. That's going to get you to our projection. That's going to get you to 8-4. Again, that is the projection. And I think that's a very fair projection with this schedule. This is a pretty tough schedule. Again, 2 games where they're going to be pretty clear underdogs. And then you got 4 games that, again, they would split if they're 50-50 games. I think they're probably going to be favored against, maybe in 3 of those 4 games, Florida, Missouri, and South Carolina. Maybe they win 3 out of 4. They get to 9-3. Maybe they pull off an upset somewhere, get to 10-2. I think that's possible. Anything under 8-4, I think, is a disappointment. Anything over 8-4 is a pretty solid season for Texas A&M in 2025.